Hi everyone, my name is Jenny and welcome back to my creative space. So in this video, I wanted to do a casual sit down and chat about the books that I am anticipating for the coming year 2025 and, see what's up. In the year of 2025, I have quite a few that I'm very looking forward to and have been waiting quite a while to get my hands on and read. Anytime that I'm looking down, I'm looking at my tablet for the book titles and the dates that we're going to be chatting about. So the first few books I actually don't have the publishing dates for, but I'm hoping to get news on in this coming year. So first off is Tahereh Mafi, the fourth book in the This Woven Kingdom series. I did see that she announced on her Instagram that coming fall 2025, there will be a title for the fourth book, a cover reveal, and also a publishing date for that. So, fingers crossed that the pub date isn't too far off from that announcement. And another book that I'm highly anticipating is the sequel to Air by Sabaa Tahir. I know that on Sabaa's Instagram, she had posted a little bit of a video showing that she's drafting and working on the sequel currently. So I'm hoping potentially come fall 2025 or winter 2025, we will get an announcement on when we get that Air sequel. And then another book, I'm assuming that it is going to be published in 2025, but when I looked at it last, the book Alchemized by Sen Lin Yu didn't really have a publishing date. It doesn't have an official cover quite yet, but Alchemized is based off of this author's work on AO3 called Manacled, and it is a Dramione fanfic. I'm not really that deep in fanfic communities, but I do have Manacled downloaded and on my Kindle, and I want to attempt to read that within maybe this next year and see how it compares to the Trad Pub version, because obviously with Trad Pub, the author is going to need to change up the names of characters. For Alchemized, I believe it is a sort of enemies to lovers with a mixture of Handmaid's Tale. I've heard a lot of people talk about how emotionally fraught this book is, and I'm just interested in seeing if it truly is an enemies to lovers vibe. And if it is that slow burn, I think it'll be something that I really enjoy. So starting in the month of January, the first two books that we have within the beginning half is going to be Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I have read only one Grady Hendrix prior to this release, and it is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. That one, I had a very good time. It was very creepy and atmospheric. I think this one leans a little bit more fantastical than it does horror, as it follows a group of young girls in a sort of boarding house. And I think it follows an element of these girls being cast away because they are pregnant out of wedlock. So I wonder how that storyline will go for me. I have not read too many pregnancy-esque stories. Sometimes I do pick up romances that have an accidental pregnancy trope, which tend to not be my favorite. But with this one, I'm interested in seeing how Grady Hendrix takes the story plot and where these young girls are going. We do follow a younger cast of characters, and I think potentially from what the synopsis looks like, it could be something that is multiple POV as well. Another book that comes January 14th is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Iru. This one actually is a republish from Indie. It is a fan row, and I was actually gifted the Indie copy of Heavenly Bodies, and I was going to read it this year, and then I heard about the repub, and I saw on the author's Instagram that they really suggest that you read the new version, as there's quite a bit of editing and there's more backstory to certain characters in the story that will eventually build on in the next coming books. I know this one is a fanrow that follows our main character, who basically her destiny is to fall in love with this god, and when they fall in love, it will destroy both of their worlds. And so this god, in an attempt to not allow her to fall in love with him, kind of puts up this plot of, let me destroy her life so she can just hate me and this destiny will never come. So this god basically comes down, takes everything she loves from her, kills her family, destroys her village, all those kind of things. And so she ends up going to the neighboring kingdom for an alliance. And this romance from this book is kind of like mentor to lovers kind of thing. I think she ends up working with the commander of the enemy kingdom, and they form a romance. It seems really fun. I do like the idea of a more celestial theme romantasy, and I'm just looking quite forward to it. The cover of the indie version of Heavenly Bodies I really liked. I thought it was really cute, but this new traditionally published version, I really think it is really stunning, and it does capture the vibes of the story really well, I think. And I think it's one of my favorite indie to trad pub cover designs. Very excited for this one to come out. I think the sequel that was also indie pubbed as well will be coming out later in 2025. I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully we get that out, and then, you know, the highly anticipated third book will also be published within the year of 2026. The next book that comes out in January 21st is Hong Kong, which is a translated fiction from the author of The Vegetarian, and the title is We Do Not Part. I don't know too much about this one, but I think it leans more so historical fiction. We follow this woman and her friendship in this village that they live in, and things go from there. I know Hong Kong is a very celebrated author in South Korea, and I'm really interested in picking up their work come 2025. I've just heard a lot of positive things about Han's work, and I can't wait to pick up their work for the first time coming 2025. So the next book that I have on my anticipated read will come out in the month of March, and it's Our Infinite Fates by Laura Steven. This one I found on my Instagram because somebody I followed got an arc of it, but I believe it is possibly an enemies to lovers, but they are destined in every single lifetime to kill one another. I'm not sure if it's one of the books where it's like one of them is destined to kill the other, or, you know, they both fight each other in that way. But from their story, it has heavy star-crossed lover vibes, and I don't think I've read too many star-crossed lover books in a while, and so I'm really interested in seeing if I get along well with this romantasy, just from how much they hyped it up and how much excitement that they had over this book. I am truly interested in it. I do think that the UK cover of this book is so much cuter than the US, but all that really matters at this point is the content of the book and how well I get along with that one. And the next book that comes out at the tail end of March is Ashley Winstead's new thriller, This Book Will Bury Me. And this one, I believe, follows a young woman in college who ends up kind of embedding herself in the like true crime community, and she becomes like this internet sleuth. And in her local college town, 3 young women end up being murdered, and so her and her little friends on her like sleuthing club end up putting themselves in the middle of this investigation and trying to find out what happened to these 3 young women. And I think it just devolves from there, and we get to see the crime through her eyes, and maybe she has some sort of information that maybe the police don't even know as well. I am wondering, because the main character is this like amateur sleuth, if we're going to get a dynamic audiobook and one that has a like potentially like recording podcast type of element, because, you know, she is like an internet sleuth that, you know, you tend to share information about the things that you are researching online. I'm hoping that that's the case, but you know, who knows what an audiobook will turn out to be. I have tried Ashley Winstead before and it didn't fully work for me, so I'm hoping that this one is something that really captures my attention. In the month of April, we have quite a lot of releases that I am anticipating. So the first one is Say You Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, and this one follows a woman and a veterinarian, and they kind of get off on the wrong foot, but then they end up somehow making amends and going on a date, and they just have so much chemistry, and you know, they get along with each other really well, but due to life circumstances, the heroine's like, we can't do this right now. I have so much on my plate and so much stress in my personal life that I don't think I can add on this new romantic relationship. But, you know, distance does not do anything, and they keep remembering each other and they keep on thinking about that one night that they had together. And I am hoping that this book has a lot of good romantic chemistry. One thing about Abby Jimenez, though, is she loves to just punch you in the throat with emotions. So I think that this book, despite how beautiful and bright and vibrant the color of the cover is, I think it's going to be a very emotional one, just like all her other books. The next one on the same pub date of April 1st is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the sequel to The Tainted Cup, where we follow our two detectives, Anna and Din, and I am just excited to get back into the murder mystery sleuthing with our dynamic duo. Anna is this very highly intelligent woman who, like, she can solve any crime, no matter the day, time, hour, lack of information. She will get the job done, and her assistant Din is this very chaotic young man who's just getting his footing in the detective industry. And I really liked this world from the setup of The Tainted Cup, where it is slightly fantastical. It almost gives me this Attack on Titan vibes, where their city is kind of encased in these walls to protect them from leviathans in the ocean near their kingdom. The people in this world are able to like recode themselves in a way where you have better ability at like eyesight or like physical strength, and it has this very interesting magic system that is very anime coded to me, and I just have a lot of fun. And I do like the murder mystery in a fantasy world element that is going on in this series. The next book is the sequel to Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murders by Jesse Q. Sutanto, and the title of the book is Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping, in brackets, on a Dead Man. This one I don't know too much about, but I know that we are following our beloved character, Vera Wong, and she is the owner of a tea shop in San Francisco. In book one, she finds a dead body in the middle of her tea shop, and she ends up sleuthing, trying to figure it out because she does not believe that the police are doing their due diligence, as she knows for a matter of fact that the man in her tea shop was murdered. And so she ends up going around the city, finding people she thinks is connected to this man's death. And she ends up forming an unlikely found family with the people that she suspects is the murderer of this random man in her tea shop. And I am hoping that in this second book, we are following the same family and we get to see much more of their relational growth with Vera Wong. There is something so cozy and sweet, despite the fact that they are investigating deaths, which is a little bit eerie, a little bit creepy, especially because Vera is an older character. Some of the situations she puts herself in, I'm like, Vera, please, I need you to stay alive and well. So the next one, I don't know if I'll pick this up right away. This is Jessa Hastings' newest book. I don't know if it's going to be a series or a standalone, but it's called The Conditions of Will. I think this one is set in the United States, and our character is like a mind reader, not in like a fantastical way. I think it's just like she knows how to observe other people well. And it's this messy family story, and she and her brother end up in a sort of a love triangle because they're both interested in the same man. So yeah, I do over here have the Magnolia Park series, which I am working my way through currently, but I do like the way Jessa Hastings writes drama and sets up dynamics between peoples and family. And this one is just, I'm just interested in this one because this cover, as you can see here, is quite interesting. I'm not entirely sure how the dynamic of the Virgin Mary imagery on this cover kind of pans out in the story. I will say that with Magnolia Parks, there are a lot of elements on the book covers that do tie into the story. So I'm hoping that the Mother Mary imagery explains itself. It's an interesting choice, but I think hopefully the story will make sense to the very dynamic cover that we have received for this one. Coming mid-April, we have some more romances that I'm really anticipating. The first one is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This follows our main character Cam and her romance. This one is the fourth and I believe the last book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, where we follow this family on Rebel Blue Ranch. I think Cam is the co-parent to our character in book 3, Gus. They have a child together, and we are kind of following her, navigating her relationship in this fourth book. I think I do know who her romantic counterpart in this book is, but I won't say fully because it could be a spoiler because it is the last book. Lila Sage does a really good job in writing her female characters. The struggles that each one of her leads has gone through in the past 3 books that I've read have been so relatable, and I just enjoy how straight to the point she writes her stories, and there isn't this sort of annoying conflict between the characters. I think they resolve their issues really well, and like things just go very quickly. So I think Lila's work is such a great palate cleanser, and they're just so heartwarming to me, and I've had so much fun reading all 3 of her books this current year, so I can't wait to read Cam's story come April 2025. The next book that I have, and I'm sure many people know of, is Emily Henry's newest book, Great Big Beautiful Life. I know that this one follows 2 authors. One is like award-winning, Pulitzer Prize-winning author versus our other main character, who I believe she is like an up-and-coming author. She hasn't really gotten a writing deal quite yet. I believe that they're invited to like this vacation home of this heiress, and her family is so well known in the media, and she is looking for someone to write her autobiography, I believe. And so she's testing the waters between the two, and obviously, because they spend so much time together, they end up having a romance. I will say I have not read Funny Story by Emily Henry yet, but that is something that I am hopefully going to try reading soon. But this one I'm anticipating, as it kind of gives me a bit of beach read, given that we're following authors in this one, and I'm hoping that we get back to that sort of tension and magic that was in Beach Read. Not that I have not liked any of Emily Henry's books, but I know that there have been like mixed reviews about Funny Story, so hopefully this one is a hit. The next one that I have is an indie romance by Liz Tomford. This is the last book in the Windy City series, and it's titled Rewind It Back. And this one follows our main character, Rio, and he finally gets his romance that, you know, he's been highly anticipating since book 1. I am not sure who his romantic counterpart in this story is, but Rio is a hockey player, and he is friends with our main character Xander's from book 1 in Mile High. And given the title, Rewind It Back, I have suspicions that this could potentially be like a childhood friends to lovers story. In the last book, Play Along, there wasn't any real hint on who possibly his romantic love interest could be, but I am just excited. I really enjoy Liz Tomford's setup and how she writes her characters and how we get to know their backstory. And she's just one of those authors that just really work for me. And the last book for April is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This one was supposed to be published, I believe, this year, but publishing dates get pushed back and all that. But this one isn't necessarily a sequel. I can't, for the life of me, think of the word right now, but it is within the same world as A Very Secret Society for Regular Witches, I believe. And this one follows our main character, who I believe resurrects her aunt, and they end up doing like magical innkeeping together, and potentially somebody in that inn is the romantic counterpart for our main character. I really did enjoy Sangu Mandana's first book, and it is very much a cozy romance. There is a little bit of spice in that first book, but not anything too like descriptive and on page. But I am just very interested to see. I hope that this is just as heartwarming and as cozy as the first book in the series. And then coming May, the first book that I have, I'm not entirely sure if this is for sure the pub date for it, but we have The Strength of the Few by James Islington. This is the sequel to The Will of the Many. I don't know too much about this one, and I am going to just go into it without knowing too much, but I know that there hasn't been a cover reveal quite yet for it, because the first book got republished with a new cover design, which I'm not totally a fan of, but I'm sure you've heard me in many other videos talk about how I'm not a fan of the new cover. But this one, I know there was like a general date of saying like summer 2025, and Goodreads does say May 6th, so I hope that's true and that is the sequel. I do want to reread the first book in this series again, because there was a lot that happened towards the tail end of the book that had me really interested to see how much further the world expands. And then the last book that I have for May is Immaculate Conception by Leiling Huang. This is the author for Unnatural Beauty, and just first off the bat, the title of Immaculate Conception, stunning, beautiful, love the title. The second thing is the cover of this one gives me very uncomfy vibes, but this author is a horror author, so I think it definitely depicts the sort of energy the story is going for. I believe that this one follows art students, and there's this sort of all-consuming female friendship that happens in this book, and one of our main characters ends up marrying a very wealthy person who is developing some sort of program for human empathy, I believe. And so her and her friend has like a lot of trauma or something of the sort, and so she ends up attempting to absorb her friend's trauma to give her a better life, but like through whatever technology that they've created in this one, their personalities are kind of mixed, hence probably why the cover looks the way that it does. I'm very interested in seeing the commentary Leiling Huang has in regards to female friendship and potentially it being queer. I really did enjoy Natural Beauty, and the ending did take a little bit of a turn for me, but I really liked the sort of commentary and emotional discussions that happen in Natural Beauty, and I just believe Leiling Huang's writing is just so searing and heartfelt, and I just can't wait to read the second book from this author. And then I have one book for the month of June. It's called When Devils Sing by Zon Kaur. I believe that's how you say the first name of this author, but I don't really know too much about this book, except that the author themselves had put up, like, if you like the Raven Boys, you would like this one. And I'm not necessarily a fan of the Raven Boys. That's because I've never read the Raven Boys, but I've heard so much about the Raven Boys having amazing atmosphere, and that was something that really interested me and had me put it on my anticipated reads. And for the month of July, I have a young adult paranormal romance. This one is called Blood Moon by Brittany Lewis. I believe that this one is a sort of werewolf romance. Our main character is 18. She's in high school. In the town that they live in, there is like this local lore that a pack of werewolves patrol the town in order to like protect them from vampires in the area. And I think she ends up encountering like a vampire, and she embrawls herself in the middle of a feud between vampires and werewolves. But the romance is with a werewolf? To be determined. I'm not entirely sure, but you know, it's giving Twilight a little bit, but like not in a bad way, right? I'm really interested in seeing. I have not read too much werewolf paranormal romance. I don't think I've read any, to be honest. I think the only one that I've ever read is Twilight, but I wouldn't say that that's a paranormal romance with a werewolf specifically, if you know what I mean. And the last month that we are covering for 2025 is going to be August. In the middle of the month, we have The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. And I don't know too much about this, but I know that there's a lot of people that I follow and am friends with that really love Isabel Cañas' work. I just think that the cover of this book is just so stunning, and the cover in and of itself is what sold me, to be honest. I do plan on picking up Isabel's other work this coming year and reading and seeing the evolution of their writing. I believe this is Isabel Cañas' third work. I know they have Vampires of El Norte, and I believe The Hacienda is the two books that they've already published. But I've just heard really good things about the vibe and energy of their work. And so I'm very interested in diving into their backlist before the published date of this one. And then the very last book that we are going to chat about is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. This one comes out August 28th, and it doesn't have a cover quite yet, but I do know that on R.F. Kuang's Instagram, she was signing tip-ins for the book, so I'm very interested in seeing what the design ends up looking like for the cover. But this one follows two academic rivals, I believe, and they are going to hell to save their professor. I'm not sure what the energy of that will be like, but I know that this leans in a bit more on the sort of romantic dynamic between the two academic rivals. I don't think it would be correct to say that it is like a romantic book or like a love story between the two, but I'm just interested in seeing, because I had read Babel by R.F. Kuang and Yellowface, and within Babel, I really liked the kind of character and relational dynamic that she had written in there. And I think it invoked a lot of emotion in me in Babel, the relationship that she built between the main character group. So I'm very interested in seeing how the dynamic of our two leads in Catabasis will be like. And hopefully it's just a fun time, honestly. I really do enjoy Babel, and Yellowface was a very silly, goofy time for me. So I'm hoping that it leans in between the two, maybe more so towards Babel, because I really did enjoy Babel, and Yellowface was just, it was a book for me. I had a fun time, and that was all I was really asking for in that one. All right, but that is all the books that I currently have on my radar for 2025. I am very much looking forward to this coming year of releases. I'm sure that there are many releases that I have not spoken about and that I am not aware of, but hopefully, you know, if you have any books that I did not mention that you think I would really enjoy or that you are really highly anticipating, please do put that in the comments because I would love to check them out and put them on my reading list for 2025. But thank you so much for being here and listening to me chat about some books that I'm really excited to pick up this coming publishing year. If you don't have anything to say, let's put like the little paper emoji and like a pencil emoji, like, you know, writing a list. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!